Hey everyone, Kidedan here. We're back with some more How to Starbound. This is part 3 in the series, and we're going to be talking about sentient encounters. So most of the time when you encounter another race or species, or even the same one, it's going to be for a dungeon. And enemies, or everything in a dungeon is an enemy, even if they are the same race. If you play as a Floran, you find a Floran dungeon, they're going to attack you on sight. So just be prepared for that. Most of the encounters that I find are usually Floran, avian, human, and glitch. There are also apex laboratories. There's also pirate ships you can find. Most of the time, it's almost always avian for me. They have two different types. They have a tomb-like dungeon, and they also have a temple-like dungeon. Humans usually have just a military outpost. The Florans have some sort of underground lava prison thing, and the glitch and the apex have similar things. They're kind of like a robotic looking laboratory. Oh, humans also have a abandoned prison where the prisoners have taken over. These dungeons are very good. You can usually find one at least per planet or every other planet. Great for loot because the enemies have a chance to drop the weapons they're wielding, which means it's a good way to get, guns or ranged weapons early in the game. You always have to make sure you're coming prepared, though. You're definitely going to want band-aids or some other healing method. I prefer the regenerative cooking food of each species just because it's cheaper and more efficient and easier to make than band-aids, especially if you don't have a tree that drops plant fibers once you've planted it. And another thing is that most dungeons have a good chance to find some decent loot. Not all of them are very good. The Florans I don't usually get too much from. It's usually the avian temples and the apex laboratories that drop the best stuff. And one last real quick note about dungeons. There is a special kind of dungeon you can find. I believe it's classified as an apex laboratory, but it's kind of like a very small dungeon. There's usually no enemies in there. It's just got Tesla coils surrounding a lot of the region, and it's kind of like an obstacle course. At the end, you'll usually find a high-tech chest that contains a schematics for depending on which threat level you're on, because 1 and 2 you can only get the boost jump or the energy dash, but if you go higher you can get more schematics. So depending on what threat level planet you find the little obstacle course on, then you have a better chance to find different kinds of schematics. And there's one other kind of sentient encounter that you can have in this game. It is the peaceful ones. They are usually encountered in solo houses on planets, or you can find them in villages. Villages will usually contain the same race, and it'll just be very massive, usually 4 large buildings, apartment style, containing lots and lots of that race. Most of the characters that you find in these towns or villages won't really do anything. You can talk to them, but they pretty much say the same line over and over again, or they alternate between a dialogue or two. There is usually, however, a merchant in every village that you encounter, and you can even sometimes find merchants solo out in the wild. Sometimes you can find a frog, and he's not really any other race that you've seen, but most merchants sell you some sort of good. They all have a specific type that they classify under. There's food merchants, clothing merchants, weapon merchants. The most common for me are definitely the food merchants, which is good because then instead of, having to hunt down aliens with your bow to get raw meat, you can just buy a huge stack of it. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about sentient encounters. Alright, thanks for watching everyone. Like, favorite, and subscribe if you guys want to see more, and